Hello and welcome to an Echo of Glory. Oh, look at that.
Wow.
Live water giving. We're back. The good news is we are back after a weekend off, and the good news is Spurs are back this week. We will come to that in a minute. I think, yeah. Firstly, let me introduce our regular guest, Jake Robson. Hello.
Hello.
Back to regular now.
Yeah.
All it takes is Johnny, a couple of weeks and you're back. You're back in his good books.
Also with the cap again this week.
Absolutely. Where can you get it?
I don't know, you tell us.
Johnny.
And echoofglory.com.
There you go.
Got a bit of,
Along with,
Go on.
well,
I've got it here. Yeah, I was going to do that later, but
okay.
While we're doing the
you've
merch.
done it to me now. I don't know if you can see that. We have got an Echo of Glory bottle opener, and we're going to give one away for free. We're going to give it to James was a bit vague on this, our producer. The best comment on our live chat. No one here yet, but they will be. On our live chat, best comment make us laugh or something we agree with. You can't always agree in football. So if there's something we all agree with, we will send you an Echo of Glory bottle opener. Also, hello, talking of bottle openers and beers, it's Gary Dymant.
What was the...
I kind of feel James got these
link?
for you.
Yeah, I like it. It's already on my keyring.
Yeah, good. Okay. We'll come to the club news in a minute, but just something, I want to throw out a question over something that happened to me this week. Wasn't that exciting, but I felt like it opened up a question. I booked a haircut for my son on Friday afternoon after school, but had stupidly booked it for Thursday afternoon by mistake. And on the Friday morning, when I thought he was having his haircut, got a automated thank you for coming to the barbers. I was like, I haven't been yet. It must be a computer. Anyway, I booked the wrong date. When I went in on Saturday to take him, the guy was lovely about it. He was like, oh, here he is. Didn't turn up on Thursday, did you? I was like, I'm so sorry, I just booked the wrong day. Not very like me. But it got me to thinking, have you ever not turned up for something, missed something you should have come? It reminds me of my friend Lee, who once went to our friend Lee Bibbering, who once went to Spurs Blackburn on the wrong day. thought it was Saturday.
Thought the traffic was great that
yeah, I breezed through. Yeah. He thought the game was Saturday, the game was Sunday. He turned up and there was no one there. I know crowds were down at that time, but so there you go. Anything you've ever missed, Jake?
absolutely not.
Because you're just so pronto and so organised.
My friend, though, turned up for a flight the day early.
Yeah, I read that's probably quite common.
And I've got another mate who we were on holiday with, and he'd done that thing where he'd booked a really late flight out or going home. He'd booked it was at like midnight. But he thought it was midnight on the day of the next day.
Yeah.
He'd missed it. It was like 6 p.m, and he missed it. His flight left like 18 hours ago or whatever. Yeah.
Gary?
Yeah, this is a really bad one because my name amongst you lot, like my friends growing up, was always Fritz, wasn't it? Because I was
German efficiency.
Reliably on time. Don't miss a thing. And I missed the worst one. It was my sister's wedding.
What?
No, it was my sister's wedding. True story, this. And a lot had been going on at home. My twin sister was staying. A lot happening. I'd already melted something in the oven that day. Like I was just having one of those days when my mind wasn't right. The wedding was over 2 nights, and I misread the invitation. So when the Uber came and we were running late, I'd given the address for the second night. The location for the first night was a different one, and I missed the actual wedding ceremony. Yeah. So Fritz failed.
Okay.
Schmozzle.
Quickly, have you missed Spurs? 2 weeks without Spurs?
Oh, I see what they did there.
No, I haven't.
No.
I've
missed the Premier League.
Yeah.
I've missed football. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even I miss football, but I do miss Tottenham. Like, however bad we are, it's like I like the anxiety before the game, the nerves, the tension.
Yeah.
However bad we are, like there's the vague hope that actually we're going to score a goal, and that's the greatest feeling. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I do miss it.
Score a goal,
but I don't miss losing.
I think that's it. If we were really good, like if this was the Poch team or any of the good teams, even the end of Conte team, every game was like great, buzzing. If we were good, I would miss us, but I've certainly not looked forward to us playing Chelsea, which we'll come to. Like if our next game was Southampton at home, I might be in a slightly different mood. It's like, I'm just going to prolong it a little bit till we might actually win a game. Yeah,
well, Chelsea way is just the most inevitable thing in the world, isn't it?
Exactly. Louis Stevenson's currently winning the Echo Glory a bottle opener because he agrees to come back to a game at Stamford Bridge is making me not look forward to our return.
Yeah, exactly that.
We'll talk about Chelsea in due course. We're going to be joined by Liv Buzaglo, presenter, reporter for the Premier League, big Chelsea fan. Dad scored a hat-trick in the FA Cup, which we've talked about before. We'll talk to Liv. Club news. So Spurs haven't been playing, but stuff has still been happening. We'll start with the teams that did play. The 21s had no game. The 18s drew 1-0 with West Ham. They're fourth in the league. They've got games in hand. Gary, you were dropping some messages.
That was my fault.
Yeah, well, what happened? Did you say something like if they won, they'd gone top or something?
No. This is my fault. We were 1-0 up
making stuff up.
And we had 3 games in hand. And if we'd won all 3 games, we'd have gone top of the league. And so at 1-0, I messaged the group saying, 1-0 up. Like, see this out, win the next 2, and we're top of the league. And then obviously West Ham equalised. Yeah. So even now, if we win the next 2, we're still a point adrift. My fault. I'll take
your fault.
responsibility.
But they're fourth. They've got games in hand. Southampton are top.
That is what people are tuning in for. The insight into the rubbish that gets talked about in the WhatsApp group. The fake news.
Yeah. The women, they drew 1-0 at Leicester, ending a run of 6 straight defeats. I watched that yesterday. The men and women have 1 win in 12 between them.
So I read about the women that they were quite unlucky because they had like 100 shots, but you have a different take.
They had about 25 shots, but it was mostly shots from places they weren't going to score.
It was just...
Yeah, they didn't create that much. They went 1-0 down with an own goal from Rybrink, who's now scored 2 own goals in 2 games, which is very Spursy. And then D Spence, we'll come to D Spence in a minute, but Drew Spence, Jed Spence, equalised, decent goal. And Spurs sort of huffed and puffed, but it was really taking shots where you're not really going to score from. And you do see a lot more goals from distance in women's football, but they didn't play great. And they'd lost 6 in a row to not win at Leicester. They'd been in decent form at home, but they really should be beating Leicester. And the whole team, like the whole seniors, 1 win in 12 against Alkmaar across the 2 teams. Something's rotten.
You mean RZ?
RZ, sorry. Gary, RZ?
I mean, it is RZ, actually. I was actually watching some of that game back.
We had this discussion.
And I was listening to the commentary, and the commentator was RZ, but we've been picked up at AZ, we called it.
All right, a couple of other things. One thing that I noticed that happened this weekend, Yang can do it on a spring afternoon in Stoke. Nice goal. And you get, so that goal reminded me of Son. No, it's just a goal. Like because he's from Korea, it might remind you of Son.
Lazy journalism.
Yeah, it's lazy journalism. Nice goal, nice finish. They lost at Stoke.
3-1, wasn't it?
3-1. I've spoken to a few QPR fans. Played poker with one on Friday night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
How do you get on?
I came second, yeah. He went out first. Sorry about that, mate.
Get back to QPR.
Back to West London. He said he hadn't pulled up any trees, and a few people had said that.
But what does that mean? Has he been given... I don't know anything... I haven't looked into it. 10 minutes here and there on the bench and hasn't got the winning goal for them? Is that what they mean?
You know what fans are like? They
no, but has he played a lot of minutes and not really...
When he's played, he hasn't done enough.
You mean 18-year-old who's come off the bench?
I think it's 17, isn't he, even?
Just reporting it.
I'd need to look into this myself before I form my own opinion.
Going further back, the international break finished from memory. Bergval, or Bijval, is that right? Didn't play in either game. He was ill. They sent him home after the Luxembourg game and before they smashed Northern Ireland. They sent him home. And our friend Christian Romero got 290 minutes under his belt.
Whose friend?
Tottenham Hotspur's friend. I watched a bit of that Brazil game. It was a great game, but he gave away the goal by dallying on the ball.
Yep.
And Cunha robbed him and smacked it in.
Yep.
Cunha was brilliant, by the way. We'll see more of him. Not club news, but he obviously got that extra game ban, but we'll be back. He would have been back for Spurs anyway.
Yeah.
But
what time of night is that on?
I was working that night on the UEFA qualifiers.
You didn't stay up for it?
No, it kicked off about midnight, I think, and I got home and it was on. Romero dallied on the ball. Cunha took the ball off him and smacked it into the corner. But at least he got 180 minutes under his belt, eh? And I'm glad we rested him for the final half an hour at Fulham so he could play 180 minutes for Argentina. That is the important thing.
It is strange, isn't it? How you get taken off presumably because it's felt you can't do 90 minutes and then you play 90 minutes in the space of 4 days on the other side of the world.
I'm not sure that's
intense 90 minutes against Brazil as well.
I'm not sure he would have been necessarily taken off because they didn't think he'd last. It was probably with a view. I reckon it was with a view because they knew he was going to play 180
But who's in
minutes.
charge here? Us or them?
Yeah, but no club can tell a national team or coach how long to play a player for, so they know what's going to happen.
You say that. I'm sure there are discussions sometimes.
Fergie's not a manager anymore. And no, but you know what I mean? Yeah, discussions, but I think you have to know. We've said this before, haven't we? International football to a lot of foreign players means a lot more to them than we appreciate in England.
Because
we think, it's England again.
Any player wants to play for their country. I get
Absolutely.
that. But why are we managing his minutes when he's clearly fit enough to play 180? He played 180 minutes in 4 days. I did the stat. I can't quite remember the numbers. And in the previous 108 days, he played 200 minutes. And yes, he had been injured, but he was back. He was fit. And we're only playing him for 60.
So should we have just played him for the 90?
Yes.
Right, I see.
Well, of course, he's our best defender.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Maybe.
Or if he's not our best defender, he was our best defender on the pitch in that game.
However much it is that they want to play for their national teams, and I get that, well, we pay him an extortionate amount of money every week, and he hasn't been playing, so stay on the pitch, and if you pick up a knock, that's tough luck. Then you don't go to Argentina.
Yeah, I don't think that's why he was played. He wasn't played. The club weren't saving him.
No, I understand that. I understand they weren't
not.
saving him. But the point is, first and foremost, you get out there and you do the job for the people that pay you, and that's the club. And he hasn't been doing that. And then we took him off, and that probably, wasn't his request. But this idea of managing his minutes when he was clearly capable of doing 180 minutes a few days later, it's madness. Absolute madness.
All right, just before we come on to a little bit more club
It's not
news.
a hill I'm going to die on.
Yeah, I enjoyed that show last week.
What a show that was.
If you didn't listen to our show last Monday, the Spurs Hills that you will die on, it was a really good chat. And I've actually had a few people that I don't necessarily hear from that often, friends you've picked up along the way and Spurs fans.
People coming out the woodwork.
I really enjoyed that show. Here's my Spurs Hill. So maybe there's another hill. Something we talked about at the start.
There's another hill.
There's plenty of hills that we can go and die on. Something we talked about at the start of this show, if you've only just joined us, missing important things. I mean, my son missing his haircut on Thursday wasn't that important. Gary missing his half-sister's wedding, important. Sasha, I missed the Yunus Kabul equaliser in the 4-4 anniversary match and the legends at the start. So, yeah.
A lot of people
Sounds
miss the
just
Aaron
about
Lennon.
as unimportant as Johnny's son's haircut.
A lot of
The
people
legend
miss
in the
Aaron Lennon
anniversary
goal.
match.
Yeah, but missing the Aaron Lennon goal
No, because they'd left.
was out of
That's
choice.
Yeah.
And maybe Sasha missed the goal out of choice. I tell you what I did miss. Not out of choice.
What, at Arsenal?
Yeah.
Who missed that?
Well, people left because we were 4-2 down with 5 minutes to go. Gary
Yours
stayed.
truly did not leave.
Yeah, Gary stayed.
You missed a quite important goal, a big moment when you were in the loo.
I was just about to say that. My son
I never forget
needed
that.
a wee in the Liverpool 9-men game and Joel Matip
Was
equalised.
that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Something else I did miss this week, these segues today, was last week was the Jed Spence interview. Gary, you've watched it.
Yeah, I watched it because we all saw the clip about the leadership at Tottenham. So I took the time to watch the whole thing. Also, because it's just interesting insight into one of your players. I don't know. I mean, I don't really know how much you can take from these things, but he was sat there with his sunglasses on indoors, which straight away just winds me up. But then,
It's like wearing a baseball cap indoors.
Don't worry, Gary. It's not for you. You wouldn't understand.
But I'm an old fart, so
Don't worry about it.
But it was. There were some interesting things in it. It was mostly run-of-the-mill stuff. A lot of noise made about comparatively little. But the leadership chat was an interesting one for sure.
So what did he say?
Well, the soundbite, the clip, the way they clipped it up, made it look like he said, or didn't, rather when asked who are the leaders at Tottenham, and he kind of went silent and was really thinking about it. It was clipped up to make it look as though he didn't think Spurs had any leaders. That wasn't quite how it played out. They'd had a good chat prior to that about the leadership of Maddison and Son, and he was very full of praise, particularly for Maddison, by the way.
As a leader.
As a leader, somebody who's really helped him, somebody who invests time in him, who goes out of his way to sort of speak to him and give him advice. Also, as somebody that the players see on the pitch, is when Maddison is on the pitch, we can get him the ball. He will either take the pressure off us or do something for us. So he really did speak up, Maddison in particular, as a leader.
So how did the actual
and so then from there the question actually was, but who are the thumping the chest, get you going leaders? And that's where he struggled. It wasn't that we don't have leaders, it's more that he was saying, the leaders we've got at Tottenham are more of your sort of considered types like Son and Maddison.
Lead by example rather than
exactly that. Yeah. But I
so
think
he was stitched up.
I don't think so, because I think it is still a valid and important question. No, he wasn't stitched up. The way it was clipped up was wrong, and that was clickbait, sound bites, typical sort of.
Well, then he was stitched up because it made it sound like.
They didn't clip it up. Other people, aggregators, clipped it up themselves in order to get their sound bites and clicks and whatever else, right? But the follow-up question was a valid one. Absolutely, but who are your leaders on the pitch? Your real sort of chest thumping. Come on, lads, let's go.
Your Ryan Yates.
We're going into battle here, and that's where he struggled. That's where he really struggled, and that was exactly as it kind of is. It's a bit of an indictment, and it's something that we've been saying on this show for some time. There isn't, we've said for a long time. We get that Son is a figurehead. But is he a leader? We get that Maddison is a figurehead, but is he a leader? And then you look at the leadership group and the likes of Romero, and the fact that Spence has not said Romero is, to me, a bad indictment on Christian Romero. Either in terms of his attitude around the club or how invested he is.
I think the latter is the important point.
How invested he is. Exactly that, right? Because Christian Romero has everything to be a leader and to be that natural, let's go to war, lads. But if Spence isn't automatically straight away going, Cutie's that guy for us, that's an indictment on Romero.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's another question on this interview. I'll look at you. You're a TV man. Do you think he should have done it?
I would assume, I shouldn't assume, but you'd assume that the club knew he was going to do it. And if the club knew he was going to do it, then who's anyone to say that he shouldn't do it?
For me, I think there's been questions about his attitude, rightly or wrongly. I'm only saying what's been out there. Just got himself in the team, done absolutely brilliantly, knocking on the England door, been brilliant. Can't knock him. I just wondered whether...
That's probably why they wanted the interview.
I just wondered whether it was a bit... Just keep your head down, mate.
Yeah, maybe. But I think if the club... it's a bit speculative, but if the club have said he should do it, then who are we to say that he shouldn't have done it? Do you know what I mean? Is that fair? Or you're saying even if the club,
They got him on because I thought they knew they would get... He's interesting. He might give them something. I think unquestionably they thought he might give them something. I don't think they probably didn't get what they may have thought they could have got out of him. But he was going to give you something. And the leadership thing has been something they could clip up and push out there. And I don't know. For me, if I was advising him, and I'm not, I might have said, Jed, just get the end of the season.
At the same time, though, if he had been in the England squad, he wouldn't have had the opportunity to have done that interview. And
why?
Because it was during the England camp.
They'd have done it the week after.
Right,
the week
but
they might have asked someone else.
They might have asked somebody else. They might not have gone back to him. But he did take the opportunity as well. I think it was a self-promotion. I want to be playing for England. I do think I am. He is an extremely confident lad.
Yep.
Like absolutely talked himself up in a big way. Yep. There is nobody better than me. He didn't quite say it in this way. I'm paraphrasing, so don't jump down my throat. But he essentially said 1-on-1 with a winger. You're not getting the better of me. You're absolutely not.
Right.
And in fact, they brought up the Salah thing, and said, They said, what about somebody like Mo Salah? Would you be scared of playing him? He's like, no, Mo Salah doesn't run me, but he's different because his movement is so good. But running with the ball at me, I'm not scared of anyone. But when you're playing against Salah, you just always have to be aware all the time of where Salah is. And that's exactly what I said when I went to Anfield. It didn't look like Salah had any interest in running him. It's not just hype. He is a fantastic one-on-one defender. And he was saying, I want to play for England. I believe I can play for England. And I believe I can go to the top. So I think for him, it was a promotional to Tuchel. I'm here. Yeah. You should have picked me. There's that message behind it as well. So.
Also, in a way, I think it's a sign, isn't it? If somebody like whoever was putting the interview together wanted Jed Spence, it's a good thing, isn't it? It shows that he's been playing well. He's got something about him. Why would you want to interview someone that isn't sort of at the top of their game? It's a good get.
Yeah, and I think as well as something else they picked up on was it's not quite rags to riches, but it's that kind of from
He's turned it
struggling,
around.
to really sort of
Yeah.
being a highly thought of player in the Premier League. It is that kind of rag to riches story in that sense. So he is an interesting topic. I don't think it's bad of him to have gone
Also,
on.
the other reason why ultimately it was probably fine for him to do, or are you saying he shouldn't do it because you never know how? Gary's not saying they stitched him up, but someone on the internet has stitched him up.
I'll tell you
and
why.
if you're worried about doing an interview because someone out there is going to stitch you up, like then you just never do anything.
No, it's not that. Look, and he's made 11 Premier League starts for Tottenham. I just think, like I said at the start, when I mentioned at the start here, I just think he's had issues, rightly or wrongly. Just got himself in a team, knuckled down, didn't feel the time was right. But whatever. Listen,
I actually think I thought he actually emerged from it. Listen, I don't like necessarily how he presents himself and the way he communicates, but actually I thought he came out with a lot of credit. The stuff he said was all correct. I enjoyed things like, he spoke about Mickey van der Ven being a top defender. He spoke about his belief in his abilities. He spoke about being asked, would you rather score a last-minute winner for your team or make a last-minute goal-saving tackle to get your team the win? He's like, a goal-saving tackle. Like, he's got that.
So why did he bother with that Coventry goal?
But he's got that defender mentality. I thought he actually emerges from it with a lot of credit. Okay. It's just people could take a clip from any of our shows and clip it up to their agenda. And that's just always the way it's going to be.
A couple of other bits just noticed here on Twitter or X. Sam Goldman, Spurs set to file their accounts for the 23-24 season. Revenue will go down, no Europe, and wages will also go down. This is always for last season. This season, wages will take an even steeper drop, but we won't see that till next year. So that's something to look forward to. And also, just come out this morning, 31st of July, 2025, the Kai Tak Stadium in Hong Kong. Tottenham Hotspur will play Arsenal in the first ever North London derby outside of London. I don't like.
Is this the 39th game?
Yeah, well, that's as far as I don't think the 39th game will ever happen. No. I don't like pre-season friendlies against Premier League clubs, but it happens more. It's been happening the last 10 years now.
I think it's just the idea that it's the first North. It's just a coincidence, probably, that we've never played, and we've played everyone else in a pre-season friendly, haven't we?
We played Arsenal in a pre-season friendly. We played them at our place, beat them 1-0 in a pre-season friendly.
Just after Euros, and Saka got applauded.
Right. So yeah. I mean,
but I don't like. I agree with Johnny. I don't like playing other Premier League teams in pre-season friendlies. I don't see the benefits of it.
Sydney Duke says not the first outside London.
You mean you don't see the benefit on the pitch?
Yeah, I just don't think.
I'm sure there's plenty of benefit in the back pocket.
Well, Sydney Duke says it's not the first.
Correct.
Outside. Oh, that is so true. I was thinking that.
True.
It's not what?
Yes. I was thinking that. There must have been. You're so right.
We need to tell people that are listening, so we've been picked up on.
Yeah. So you see. Tottenham have tweeted, and a lot of people have said it's the first North London derby outside of London. I was racking my brains, and I didn't come up with one, having even been at that game.
I was at that game as well, yeah.
You were at that game. And I push it way out of my memory.
Which year?
We played 2001.
Yeah, something like that.
The FA Cup semi-final at Old Trafford. I remember that game. I was sat next to the Jamaican Supporters Club. They were a laugh. Gary Doherty put us 1-0 up, and we lost. Right, so it's the first.
I was all for neutral grounds, but I don't see why you would play Tottenham Arsenal at Old Trafford.
No, I think Wembley was being redeveloped. So
2001,
it was still we were still playing finals in Cardiff at that point.
Yeah, so
but what was wrong with Villa Park?
Yeah,
Old Trafford was bigger.
Even Stamford Bridge. Well, I get it, but you got to get there.
Yeah, that is what it is.
Were you supporting Spurs then? How old were you?
I was too young. I was supporting Spurs, but I was too young to be going to the Old Trafford.
Yeah. All right, so that's it. That's not the end of the show. And that's it for sort of club news and stuff that's been happening while Spurs are away. But Spurs are back.
No, there was a bit of other club news.
Oh, was there?
Yeah, the rumours about Paratici.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
As in, he's on his way back. Oh, wait a minute, he's not on his way back.
No, apparently he is. Apparently he very much is. It was a couple of weeks ago. It all seemed sort of settled that he was going to go to Milan, which sounded sort of fairly obvious. But apparently it's all turned around, and Milan can't quite convince him to give up what he's started at Tottenham. And so the rumour is that once his ban is over this summer, he will be very much back in the fold.
But there were also reports. We've seen both this week.
We have seen
different
both.
Journalists have posted different things.
The journalist that is going against that is a journalist that traditionally always goes against everything.
Matt Law.
Matt Law. Matt Law.
We've gone there, haven't we?
Matt Law is desperate. Matt Law is desperate. Every single time there is a story about Tottenham that is vaguely positive, you can rely on Matt Law to try and put the kibosh on it. And 99% of the time, he's wrong. Matt Law has a serious agenda against Tottenham.
I wonder why.
Just on Paratici.
He's a Chelsea fan.
I think he's a Villa fan.
He's really got. I mean, he does the Chelsea correspondence. I mean, he's very
does do a lot
pro
of Chelsea.
Chelsea.
On Paratici, I want to get to the season. We've got Liv Buzaglo coming on in about 6 or 7 minutes. On Paratici, we've just briefly discussed in the past that Langer and Munn, they may be good at their jobs, but I think Paratici is someone who can. It's just his name holds weight across Europe. He can pick up the phone and command a bit more respect. In my opinion, I have been wrong before and I will be wrong again.
Is it a hill you're prepared to die on?
Yeah.
To be fair, we made some you reminded me because I forgot exactly how long he'd been in the job before he wasn't in the job anymore. He's got his name to some of our best signings.
Arguably all of our best signings.
We're in the last 3 or 4 years, yeah. And as I've said, in this very seat, in the past 5 or 6, since he was in charge, we had more hits than misses in the transfer market.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not
Which is quite rare.
Especially, I think it's rare across the board. I think people don't appreciate that as much. I think it's rare on every club. But at Tottenham, certainly. Yeah. In our lifetime as Tottenham fans, I would say before Paratici, our success rate for good transfers was not very high.
Right, let's look ahead to the next couple of games. Like the players are back; they'll be back in training, and we've got games to play. Unfortunately, we've got 9 league games.
Unfortunately,
a minimum of two.
What are we doing here?
A minimum of two Europa League games. Just before we speak to Liv in 5 minutes and look ahead to Chelsea, there's been a lot of talk on social media this week and on other podcasts because there's been no games to talk about. This is the home straight. The title of this episode is the home straight. We are 14th in the Premier League, and that seems to be okay because we're still in Europe. Gary, you mentioned last week, just on the end of last week's show, if we won the Europa League, would Ange go down as one of the most successful managers in Spurs history or recent history? But on top of that, if he wins the Europa League, is it okay? Does he get a stay of execution? My answer to the latter would be I think he has to stay if he wins the Europa League. If Paratici comes in, he may want him out anyway. But answer your question from last week. If he wins the Europa League, does he go down as a successful manager? And would you want to keep him?
I mean, this is a question that I've seen around. He's having one of the worst seasons of all time with most Premier League defeats. And yet, if he wins the Europa League, he has to go down as one of the most successful Spurs managers of all time. I fundamentally absolutely disagree with that notion. I don't think that winning the Europa League de facto makes him a successful Spurs manager, particularly when it's the Europa League that at the beginning of the season we were favourites to win. Everybody thought that we would win it, so I don't see it as such a big achievement to win it. The fact that it's silverware, the last 2 trophies we've won have been by Juan de Ramos and George Graham. Are they amongst the most successful Spurs managers of all time? No. If I'm thinking about achievements in the recent era of Tottenham Hotspur,
Europe give it an elevator?
Of course, look, it's a massive trophy, right? I think it's a bigger trophy, of course, than the League Cup. But if I think about actual achievements, I would put above winning this Europa League, which I consider to be a weak field by way of the other teams in it, I would put above that Martin Jol finishing 5th twice against expectations, Harry Redknapp finishing 4th against expectations, Pochettino finishing 4th consistently, challenging, getting to a Champions League final against expectations. These are all achievements against expectations, over and above what we thought was possible. Most people sat there at the beginning of the season going, I think we've got a really good chance in this Europa League. There's every chance that we could win it. So how big an achievement would it be for us to actually win it, or how big an achievement would it be for Ange? Not that great, I don't think.
And right now we are in the Europa League because right now we should be. We should never have finished. We did finish above the line into the top 8. There was a chance we might not have finished in that top 8 and had to play a round of 16 game, or round of 30. Round of 16 game. Yeah. We beat RZ, the 5th, 6th best team in Europe. We've not achieved anything by being in this quarterfinal. We now have a game against the 3rd best team in Germany.
But the 3rd best team in Germany, but they're still 11 points off 2nd place and like 20 points off of 1st place.
Yeah. But the bit I disagree with you on, though, is that if he did win it, I think you're quite keen to say that you wouldn't put any of it down to him, which I think if we got through from where we are now, if we got through a quarterfinal and a semi-final and won the final, Listen, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and say knight the guy. And I possibly agree with you. I don't know about this. Is it, up there with Tottenham's most successful managers? Maybe. But I don't think you could judge that for another 10 years. But I think you would have to give the guy credit.
You would have to. Even I'll say that. And I'll be
you do.
Right, okay. If he wins it, great. He's done enough to win a competition that that we were favourites to win.
Yeah, but you still got to then do it. It's a lot of games.
Of course, you still got to do it. There's an interesting point here raised by Sidney Duke. Was finishing fifth a bigger achievement last season? I would say, arguably, finishing fifth you've sold Harry Kane. Spurs were one of the favourites. I mean, I know it's a nonsense thing, but the bookies had us to go down.
No, they didn't.
No, the bookies didn't. The bookies.
No.
Some silly fans had us to go down.
But people were saying Spurs could get relegated, bottom half, this, that, the other, right? And he finished fifth, and that was, to me, I agree with Sidney Duke. I think that I posted here on the live chat. I agree that was a bigger achievement last season than winning the Europa League would be this season. I just do. I just don't think that winning the Europa League puts Ange up there in the pantheons of managers, particularly in the modern era. I would still have Redknapp, Pochettino.
It's a funny one, guys, because Jorge Pena says here, sometimes when a mind is made up, a mind is made up. Me and you are very much now done with Ange. If he wins the Europa League, I would still get rid of him in the summer. I'd say thank you very much. You did really, really well. I thought overall your tenure wasn't great. You won us a cup. Wonderful. Thank you very much. You can't do it consistently in the Premier League. Maybe you're a good cup manager and whatever. I don't think winning the Europa League puts him in the same pantheon as Poch, who never won anything. But I just think overall consistency. People have said it's okay we're 14th because we're still in the Europa League quarter-final. Rubbish. I paid £1,200 for a season ticket and we're losing games left, right and centre. That's not enough.
So after United won the Cup, did you think that Ten Hag should because I didn't. I thought United made a dreadful error. And in fact, on that, by all accounts, the only reason they gave him the new contract was because they couldn't attract a manager that they wanted. Right? They wanted Tuchel, didn't get him. They wanted a couple of others, didn't get them. And only after all of that did they give Ten Hag the contract. And there's lessons to be learnt there of, number one, it wasn't United's desire to keep Ten Hag on because they knew how it would end, and it inevitably did. Yep. So the lessons to be learnt. Even if he wins, the reality is...
No club ever does it, though.
He's shown...
Apart from Real Madrid.
But he's shown...
And even when they win in Europe, they don't get
the league is the true barometer of where you are.
That's exactly what my point. The league is the barometer.
Yeah, the league is the true barometer of where you are as a team. And this team, I can only go back to it, I sincerely believe is a top 6 squad with pretty much any other manager. And I honestly think as well, a lot of other managers that we could have would be sat here thinking, we'll get past Frankfurt. I don't think we'll get past Frankfurt. I'd actually be surprised at this point if we get past Frankfurt. I think they're better than Lazio, by the way. I think if we get past Frankfurt, we really should get past Lazio.
Yeah, Lazio ain't great.
And if we get past Frankfurt, we should get to the final. But
seeing Bilbao.
Yeah.
I mean, we did that stupid thing earlier, Jake, about
don't drag me into it.
I don't even know why I'm talking about getting to Bilbao.
I shotgun the front seat. Not with Gary, he's already got a flight.
I think it's been made harder for us by playing the semi-final, quarter-final and semi-final second legs away from home.
Massive.
Makes it a lot harder.
Right. Also, we shouldn't admit to talking about this, by the way.
We're going to have to talk about Chelsea, though, because Liv Buzaglo has joined us.
I've got more thoughts on that. We'll come back to that after we've spoken with Liv.
Mm-hmm.
So don't go anywhere because Gary's got some thoughts.
We got to talk about. There she is. We got to talk about.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Fine, thank you. So we've been putting off talking about Thursday night. We've not had any football for 2 weeks, but it is coming back. Let's talk about Chelsea though to start with. People are talking about Forest and how City have not had a great season. No one's really talking about Chelsea, but you are fourth in the league. You're still in a European competition. You should really end the season with a trophy. If you don't win that trophy, for me, it'd be one of the worst.
Everyone should be sacked.
Yeah, like it would be one of the worst footballing failures ever if Chelsea don't win that tournament. But how are you feeling and how are the fans feeling about Chelsea? Like I say, you are fourth in the league. It's sort of happened quietly.
Yeah, I think that's got lost on a lot of people because how bad Chelsea have been over the last few months. I think at the start of the season, there was sort of no real expectations. I think even though we finished last season really strongly, obviously the whole change in manager, I just think everyone was just sort of back to square one thinking, I did say that I think maybe perhaps slightly optimistically that we should finish in the top 4. But given the way the season's gone, if we don't finish in the top 4, I think it's a failure. Because of where we were in December. And I know, like, I never believed Chelsea were in a title race, never, because I just didn't, and I knew we weren't. I knew our squad wasn't in the position, and I don't think our manager is in the position either. But we could have gone top. That is a fact. If we'd have beaten Everton, we could have gone top of the league for a certain amount of time. These last few months have been catastrophic, genuinely. Like, they have been. If you've watched Chelsea every week for the last, since literally we lost to Ipswich, or we lost to Fulham on Boxing Day, it started there. And I do not know how we're 4th. I think the only reason we're 4th is because everyone else below us has been worse, or just even as inconsistent, if not more, if that makes sense. So I think the fact we're 4th is a miracle. I'm not sure we'll stay 4th come the end of the season, given the fixtures that we've got, because the fixtures we had were the nice fixtures. We got through the tough part of the season in a really good position, had the easy fixtures, and it all seemed to mess up along the way. And I know you can't blame injuries. I'm never going to blame injuries, because compared to you guys and compared to other teams, we've had a few players out here and there, but nothing too drastic. So yeah, I can't believe I'm sat here still sitting in 4th. But I think that's a sign of the level of the teams below us rather than how good Chelsea have been, if that makes sense.
And if you're on a catastrophic run, who do you need to play?
Yeah,
you mentioned
perfectly honest.
Yeah, of course. You mentioned poor form. I want to just quickly ask about Cole Palmer. No goal or assist, I think 8 or 9 games. Is the drop off in the team because of him, or is the drop off in the team led to his poor form? What's going on with Palmer?
It's a difficult one. It's so hard to criticise him because he's literally carried us for the last season and a half, like quite literally. I think he himself, he even said, it's really weird because when he stepped up to take that penalty a couple of weeks before the international break, I just had a weird feeling he was going to miss, which is so weird because I have never once even had an inkling that he'll miss. Every time he steps up, I think he's going to score. But it's quite clear that he himself maybe isn't feeling the same as he was. I've no doubt he'll get back to where he was because he's just that good. But I think the team around him hasn't helped. I think Jackson being missing is a massive loss because I think we underestimate that partnership and they just understand each other. And Kunku and Palmer and whoever plays up top and Palmer's there, if it's not Jackson, just don't have that same understanding. Like if one goes, the other one's in the middle and vice versa. The amount of times they played each other through, not just Palmer playing Jackson through. So I think that hasn't helped. But yeah, I'm not too bothered about it. I mean, the assist thing is mad because I think over the last, I think maybe before the international break or maybe a couple of games before that, over that span, he'd created the most chances in Europe's top 5 leagues. And it's like assist-wise, you are relying on your teammates. So I think part of that is down to his teammates, but I think you can see it in himself. He's just not feeling himself. He's not playing his best. You can see that. But I have no doubt. I think he'll be fine. And again, love a game against Spurs. So why not on Thursday?
Well, you wouldn't be a game against Spurs without us having to ask you about Mr. Pochettino, because you touched on Maresca. You said you didn't think you'd get top 4 this season, and you also said you didn't think you'd challenge for the league mid-season, and you mentioned the manager. Do you think, therefore, they got rid of Poch too early? Because the end of last season was really good.
Yeah, this is a really, really controversial talking point within the Chelsea fan base because, to be honest, the back end of last season, as much as I think the owners didn't want Poch, I think Poch didn't want to stay. I think it was a very mutual thing. They both just agreed to go their separate ways. I would have kept him. Personally, that was always my view. I know Chelsea fans will have their own opinions on certain things and certain players playing out of position and the way we played. But given that end to the season, we were the 3rd best team in the league quite comfortably in that period of time. I think we only lost to Liverpool and Arsenal, I'm pretty sure, maybe City as well. Though it was literally 2 of the 3, I think. And we were in a really good position. And I did feel like it was, 2 steps forward, 5 steps back. But the way Maresca started the season, you then question, well, maybe, you can make a case that it was the right thing to do because we actually looked really good in that first part. But it's really difficult because when Chelsea were in this position last season, I did not see us going on the run we did. I really didn't. And now I'm looking at it in the same way. Given where we are, I can't see us going on another run like that. But maybe we will. I think personally, I would have chosen to keep Poch, but I think if you ask a lot of the Chelsea fan base, they probably would disagree with that, and they're happy with the move they made, just because of the Spurs link. I mean, I wasn't really too bothered about that, but people were for whatever reason. But I thought he did a pretty good job in his first season. So yeah, maybe they got rid of him too early. But again, I don't think it was the club's decision. I think it was Poch's decision as well, if that makes sense.
That ties into, Liv, the question that I'm going to ask, which is, what's the feeling around the board with Chelsea fans at the minute? Because there's a lot going on. I mean, just coming back to Poch, I think if you look at his trajectory at Tottenham, it started slowly and then built and built. And I would have been much more concerned about Chelsea this season had Poch stayed. But generally, not just about Poch, spent loads of money, still spending, the rebuild of the bridge, so many different things going on. I've heard a lot of discontent from Chelsea fans about the board and so on. What's the overarching feeling at the moment?
Yeah, it's not good. I sort of tend to keep myself out of that side of it because I'm just like, I really just can't be bothered, to be perfectly honest. Nothing we say as fans is really going to change the way the club is being run now, because that's the way they want to do it. It's not going to change the transfer policy in terms of going for all these youngsters on long contracts. It's really not. So I have my own opinions, but yeah, I'm just...
You're going to steer away from that one.
Yeah, because I just it's not worth it. But what I can say is that the larger Chelsea fan base are not happy. They haven't been happy for a while. They're not happy with this transfer policy. The money that we've spent on. Don't get me wrong, there have been some gems. I think 100 million on Moises Caicedo, if it's not worth it now, it will be. And I think he's absolutely brilliant.
Yes.
Cole Palmer, no one can argue about Cole Palmer for 40 million. No. Selling Kai Havertz for 60 million. There are things they have got right, and they do deserve credit for that. However, I think largely the Chelsea fan base are not happy with the way that things are going right now. But again, what can we do as fans? They've always said discontent. They try and do like a little protest, but at the end of the day, I just don't think anything's going to change. These guys are here for the long run, and I think we've just got to get used to it, as frustrating as it is.
But I mean, at the same time, massive money is still being spent on transfers, and I think Chelsea fans just need to wake up to the fact that they had the best chairman at a time when they could do whatever they want with money for over 10, 15 years, and Chelsea fans, essentially, from my view, have been spoiled by that and should just count their blessings.
We'd love a bit of that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But that's almost like the problem is that because we've had that under Robson, that's why Chelsea fans still sing his name now.
Yes.
Because back then it was a case of spending money but winning, changing managers but winning. We got to a final and no one thought we were going to lose. Now you get to a final and everyone thinks we're going to lose, if we even get to a final. Unless it's the Conference League, which I actually think we might win if we actually get there.
But the big thing about Roman Abramovich spending money and winning was that he didn't have to account for PSR and staying within boundaries and so on. It just has to be run differently now, and that's where Chelsea fans, I think, just need to wake up to the reality of today.
Is this from what you're saying, Liv, though, is that tied into what the managers sort of said about the atmosphere at the ground and the fans and he's kind of calling out the fans to get behind the team more, but it's difficult if they're not on board with what the club are doing.
Yeah, exactly. It's difficult when they're not on board with what the club are doing, and it's also difficult when the performances aren't great. Do you know what I mean? You pay a lot of money to go and watch Chelsea. A lot of people have travelled to Kazakhstan this season to go and watch Chelsea. Yeah. They spend a lot of money, and I also think, and this isn't like an excuse, but it's a lot of people's escape. Do you know what I mean? Football is a thing. We know as football fans that is your escape from reality sometimes, going to watch your team and you're in that little bubble. And sometimes when you go and it's constantly, and I know, listen, we're fourth, so we have to keep that in mind because Chelsea are still currently in a Champions League spot, which honestly baffles me so much. But again, I put that down to other teams and not us, just solely. But going to watch Chelsea at the moment is a difficult watch. Whether we're playing in the Conference League, it doesn't matter who we're against. It just, something's not right. And I don't know whether that is aimed at the players, at Maresca, or maybe it's just as a whole. Things just aren't, for whatever reason, right at the moment. And I don't know what it's going to take for this to change, because
You've got 4 days to live.
Apart from Spurs on Thursday, which is always a win, to be perfectly honest. I mean, you make a good point, because that would change a lot. It sounds silly that one game, but I don't think Chelsea fans. I want a good performance, because I want to just be excited to watch Chelsea again. At the moment, I'm just like, God, this is so boring, but it's also so boring and we're not winning. Like, you can get over it. Like, I've watched Jose Mourinho at Chelsea for years when we were so boring, but we won. And if you win the title at the end of the season, who cares? Absolutely no one.
Yeah.
But at the moment, we're boring and we're not winning and we're dropping points when we shouldn't be. And the performances are just so lackluster. It's just a lack of everything, it feels like. So, yeah, it's a good job we're playing you on Thursday.
Well, let's quickly touch on that.
It's actually quite big, because it really could sort of ignite the run-in for Chelsea on the one hand. Alternatively, if the shocking happens, and it won't, but I mean, it really won't. Chelsea will win quite comfortably. But if the shocking were to happen and Spurs were to beat Chelsea, that could really bury Chelsea for the rest of the season.
Well, I don't know.
That is an absolute, like, genuinely. And I know, given, I don't know why we have some weird hold over you, that you just, no matter how good you are, you just can't seem to beat us.
That's why. It's just...
I know, but like you, it's like you and City. Like, for how many years you've just had this weird hold over City, where no matter how good they were, you just always seem to beat them. And it's the same with us and you. Like, no matter how bad we are, it just feels like we're always going to beat you for whatever reason. And if you beat us, like, I've been saying this for like a good few weeks though. Like, you know, when we beat Southampton and Leicester, I was like, if we lose to them, all hell's going to break loose. If we lose to you at Stamford Bridge, when I say all hell is going to break loose, all hell is going to break loose.
I've got some good news for you. You're going to beat us, and you're going to win, and you're going to win silverware this season. I don't know about finishing fourth, but I sort
of like winning silverware. Yeah, it's like cool. We've won the conference league. I don't even want to lift it. Like, we shouldn't even be lifting it. Do you know? It's just
embarrassing.
The difference in caliber of teams in that competition.
Yeah.
Like, I think the only team we can face is Betis or Fiorentina, and they're on the other side of the draw, so we can only face them when we get to the final.
Are you suggesting that when you win it next season, unlike West Ham, you won't be singing Champions of Europe?
Oh my God, it's so funny. We played them. One of the first games of the season was West Ham away, and I was actually embarrassed for them.
It is embarrassing.
You can't be singing Champions of Europe, you know. No. I will not be singing, like, we should win that trophy. Like Johnny said at the start, like we have to win it. There is no other alternative. And if we do, cool, great, it's a trophy. But it is what it is. I'm not, like, for me, finishing in the top four is a much better achievement this season.
Looking ahead to Thursday, go on. We've joked that Chelsea will probably beat us. I'm sure they will. I think there's talk that Palmer and Madueke are back, which would probably be massive. I'm not sure about Jackson. But what are your thoughts on Thursday?
Do you know, I don't really have many, because we're both just rubbish. Like, at the moment, especially, like,
you've won 4 of your last 5 games. I'm looking further back. You've lost 4 of 8, which is obviously quite big for Chelsea.
Okay.
Yeah, you've been Southampton, Copenhagen, Leicester, Copenhagen. Yeah.
And we were awful against Copenhagen twice and against Leicester. Southampton was okay, but it's Southampton. They're one of the worst teams we've ever seen. Yeah. Like,
we've got them next week. So
Leicester we beat them 1-0.
Yeah.
We needed a Mark Cucurella goal.
All right, but the question is, Liv, how many do you think Chelsea are going to beat Spurs by?
All this negativity, I do think we're going to beat you, just because I do think we will. But do you know, largely down to the way you play football?
Yeah. That's
the reason we'll beat you, because even if it takes 5 chances, the likelihood is we'll score 1 goal. You'll give us 10 chances, the likelihood is we'll probably score 2. Yeah. If obviously, I think Palmer will play. Madueke's been a big miss for us. If Jackson plays, I think it'll be 4 or 5.
Is he back? Is there talk of him being back?
I don't know. He's been. Maresca did say he was going to be available after the international break, but I think, we've got games now for us. Finishing top 4 is so important. So I don't know if he'll risk him for this game. If you were challenging for the top 4, then I think maybe it would be different. But considering you're not, I think he'll probably won't risk him, even if he is fit. And I think that makes a big difference. I think him and Palmer together were an entirely different side. And without honestly saying it, without Palmer we're different, but without Jackson, I think people underestimate what he actually offers us up top. We don't have a natural striker, and just even running in behind, he's going to cause your defenders problems all game just by the way he is. So I think he'll be a big miss. I'm gonna go a 2-1, because we're so bad at the back we'll concede. So
Well, I mean, you say it took a Marc Cucurella goal to beat Leicester. As one of our viewers says, a win against Leicester is something that we could only dream of. So,
oh my God! Wait, did you lose?
Yeah, we lost at home.
Lost at home, drew away.
Yeah.
You drew away, but you absolutely battered them in the first half, didn't you? And then just couldn't.
Yeah,
get
that
the
was
second
way
half.
back in August when things might.
Yeah, I remember watching it.
I will be watching. I don't want to watch Thursday, but I'm covering your games against Legia Warsaw a couple of weeks later, so I'm going to have to keep my eye on it, even though I'd probably sit behind the sofa watching it.
I don't honestly. If you've watched Chelsea over the, I know you've been bad this season, right? But if you've watched our last 4 games, I don't think you would be. You're coming with this attitude because of Spurs.
Yeah.
But having had an attitude or an opinion, but having watched Chelsea over the last 4 weeks, I don't think you should be maybe as worried as you are, or like as it's like a foregone conclusion that you're losing, because I've seen nothing from us in the last 4 games that suggests we're going to win this game comfortably.
But Liv, you're talking about watching Chelsea over the last 4 weeks. I'm coming from watching Tottenham over the last 14 months, and the last 14 months have been dreadful.
Yeah,
dreadful.
Yeah, no,
as bad as I've seen at Tottenham, really bad.
This has been a fun 20 minutes. Go on.
Question for you guys. Sorry.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on Ange?
I've been Ange out for. I was an Ange skeptic for a while. I've been Ange out probably most of 2025. I think Gary took a lot longer. Well, that would speak for Gary, but go on.
No, I was really hoping. I like his philosophy. I'm a dreamer. I believed and wanted to believe in what he was trying to do. Ultimately, it doesn't work. And yes, he's had injuries, but I think you have to adapt and grind out wins and find another way. And he hasn't shown any of that at all. And for all this Ange ball and exciting football, actually, it's dead boring at the minute. There's nothing really going on. There's not much impetus. You'll see it. There's no cohesion amongst the team, in my view, at the moment. And for that reason, I'm out.
I'm out.
Jake?
I think his race is run at the end of the season, unless we were.
We talked about that just before you.
I was about to say
just before you came on. Just before you came on, we asked that question: if Ange wins the Europa League,
there's no way they get rid of him.
I
because
don't,
only
no,
Real Madrid, not even Real Madrid.
I would
but
get.
You can't.
I would get rid of him. One of our viewers mentioned Ten Hag. They won the FA Cup and probably should have got rid of him. Hung on to him for a while. Look, Roberto Di Matteo won a trophy, Liv, and he didn't. He wasn't a great manager.
It was the wrong thing to keep Di Matteo.
No, I know, but we had to. This is the thing, right? You can't. Di Matteo won the Champions League. You cannot sack him before you had to give him. But then we sacked him very soon into this.
Right, look at Ten Hag.
Looking for the first opportunity.
That's what will happen with Ange.
That's what will happen with Ange, and then you've wasted a season for no particular
and a transfer
reason.
window.
So I think even if he wins the Europa League, then shake hands, say we can all leave happy and get on with it.
Yeah.
All right, Liv. I think we're going to go and moan about Spurs a little bit more, but we'll leave you out of that bit.
This must have been a really hard podcast to do this season, guys.
Well, you say that. I say this every week. About 6 weeks ago, someone said to me, "You're going to run out of things to say," but actually, Spurs is the gift that keeps on giving. There'll always be something.
Always something.
Yeah. All right, Liv. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate
pleasure.
it.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll speak to you soon. Thank you
See
so
you
much.
soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye. Bye. Oh, to be fourth and upset her.
Oh, yeah.
Some people said that, I will also mention, what does Liv think about Bowley's ticket reselling business? We nearly talked about that, but Liv
she didn't want to talk.
Liv does a little bit of work for Chelsea, so I didn't really want to go there.
Also, what's she going to say? I mean,
it's wrong.
It's not great.
Happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I mean, what are you going to do? Also, it's not really. It's not really what can the fans do? Any Chelsea fan, you can either say it's good, or.
She speaks very well, doesn't she, about
very
Chelsea
passionate
and
she's a Premier League reporter. Has worked for Chelsea for a long time and does a lot in the game. And like I said, her dad scored a hat trick in the FA Cup. Could you imagine that?
No, I was just talking about Premier League reporters and.
Oh right.
Some
Premier League reporters know a lot about football. Others not so much.
Yeah. Thank you. You're welcome. I tell you,
did you ever work with Liv? I guess reporters don't see each other.
No, I do because obviously we don't just work for the same people all the time.
Of course,
I saw her the last time I saw her at a game. The last thing she said to me was, "My goodness, you inhaled that mashed potato and it was on your plate." It was at West Ham before Christmas, and I think I was one of the last to get food, so they kind of piled what was left of the potato. And I was like, it was very nice. Thank you very much.
I just want to go back to, very quickly, I want to wrap up on the conversation about should Ange stay if he wins the Europa League. It's not just about the Europa League, is it? It's also about the next 9 league games, right? Now, if in the next 9 league games we really start to see with players back, and they are back fact now injuries just can't be an excuse. I know Kulusevski might not play. You're always going to have a player or two out, right? Players at this moment, injuries are not an excuse. We've had a break. We'd even have had players coming back from international breaks and not go straight into a game.
I know, I like that.
Yeah, exactly, right? So we've got a good week on the training pitch. So I do expect us to go to Stamford Bridge, and I don't at all expect us to go to Stamford Bridge and put in any performance, but we should go to Stamford Bridge and put in a great performance, okay? A really strong performance, something that shows we're going somewhere. We should finish the season now with strong performances, consistency. And if off the back of that we go and win the Europa League, then there might be a conversation to be had. If, however, we take the view we're going to flunk the league and just focus on the Europa League, and we win the Europa League but draw 3 games, lose 5 and win 2 or whatever it is, my maths probably isn't there for that, but if the league form isn't there and the performances aren't there and we just chuck all our lot into the Europa League, then no, that isn't enough for him to stay.
That's why it's so interesting being a Tottenham fan at any stage. Like Liv just said, it must be quite a difficult podcast to do this season. Yeah, difficult because we're talking about a lot of defeats. And like I keep saying, someone said 6-7 weeks ago, what are you going to talk about? We can now talk about this home straight and what if we win? Well, I'm so fascinated by winning the Europa League.
To sort of kick on from what Gary's saying, and we touched on this the other week, he plays his strongest side away at Chelsea, for sure. Whether he does or doesn't against Southampton is neither here nor there because we should beat them regardless.
Correct.
He then obviously plays his strongest side against Frankfurt. What does he do against Wolves in between the Frankfurt games?
Well, it depends what the score of the
probably.
first
I would imagine he rotates. I think it's all eggs in the Europa League basket. But and we could finish 17th now.
So if we were to beat Frankfurt, we'll then have the same issue in the week either side of the semi-final. So I agree with what Gary's saying. It's very dependent on how the league. But if we do progress, how does he approach the league games in terms of the players that he picks?
But we've had this all season, Jake. We've had 3 points from fifth. Obviously, that was after like 15 games. We've had still in the FA Cup. We've had still in the League Cup. We've now got still in the Europa League.
I mean,
we've had all these moments that we've been waiting for. What does he do? I don't know, because he's ballsed up everything else. So I don't know.
We'll see.
And what we haven't addressed yet.
I'm looking forward to the Chelsea game at least because the only reason I'm looking forward to it, the main reason, is because at least we will see what is our strongest team in a league game, which we haven't seen for. You don't think, Gary?
What he believes to be our strongest team.
Well, what do we think the team would be?
What I think it would be versus what I would play is entirely different.
What would you play?
Well, what would you play?
I would have.
At least go with the formation he's going to play.
I would probably have. Well, no, because
don't say I'm going to play 3 at the back.
No. The way that I would approach the rest of the season at this moment, okay, with rumours that Bentancur may be off, Basuma certainly.
That's fine.
Right,
yeah,
I would actually be going a 4-2-3-1, which I think we are.
Okay, that's
best
fine. I'll give you that.
Okay?
Yeah,
and I would be going the 2 centre backs, obviously Van de Ven and Romero. I would actually go Porro right back and Spence left back.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
Yep.
I would, and here's where you might get a bit controversial, but for me, this is the way that I would do it. I would go Gray and Bergvall in midfield. I would be going in the basis that I'd actually be going Odegaard or Tell right wing, Maddison in the middle, and Son or Tell left wing.
Son plays.
Yeah, probably Son left wing and Solanke up front.
I agree with all of that, apart from I wouldn't play Gray in midfield.
I agree with that.
He's quite ready.
I don't think
against Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo.
He played against them last season and bossed it.
Yeah.
He played against them last season for Leeds and absolutely bossed it in the FA Cup. He was sensational. It was the first time I really sat up and watched him. Kulu's injured, so we've just had somebody's just posted, what about Kulusevski? He's injured, he's out. So I'm talking about for Thursday night.
But I think you might be pretty close. I think that might be close to the team that actually plays. I agree with Johnny about Gray. As much as I want to see it, I feel bad for the guy putting him in because he hasn't had enough minutes under his belt.
I think Gray plays in midfield against Southampton.
And also I think you can argue, but I think that could be the. I think Tell and Odegaard, at least one of them will play.
Yeah, but whichever way you look at it, it's not going to be 2 pivots in the 6, right?
Fine.
He's going to play a 3.
Yeah.
And so whether it is Gray,
that's exciting. So that team, to be able to see that team on whichever it is, whether it's Gray or Bentancur. But the rest of it, I'm excited to see that. We haven't seen that.
Yeah.
That's why I'm looking forward to it in that sense.
And if Kulusevski is back, then he would come into that team on the right.
Yeah.
That to me is a no-brainer. And I know we've all spoken about him in the middle.
Yeah.
But I think,
Kulusevski, sorry.
Yeah.
Joe says on our chat here, wasn't he due back after
So
the
I'm
break?
saying now.
Well, he will be back after the break at some point, but I don't think it's not
I don't think
immediately
he'll be back.
after.
But when Kulusevski comes back, I would have him on the right. I think our best performances have come when both Kulusevski and Maddison are in the team. I think to City away.
Right. So that at least being able to see that team for the first time in I don't know how long, it means I'm looking forward to it more than say, whatever game we had in February or whatever.
I'm looking forward to the parents-teachers evening that I've got on Thursday evening before the game more than I'm looking forward to the game. That says something. Yeah, exactly. I just think we're going to get humped. I just can't see how we go to Stamford Bridge when they need a win. They need the win to stay fourth. I just can't see how we're going to win.
Can I just ask, Matt Hayes on Twitter asked this week, are you
Who
bothered?
did he ask?
His followers.
Twitterati.
Asked, does it matter where we finish? He was going on about finishing 10th to 15th. He said, if you're talking about 10th to 15th, does it matter where you finish?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's embarrassing that Tottenham Hotspur should finish in double digits. But if we're going to finish in double digits, I'd like it to be 10th, please.
But, as I said just earlier...
Hey, we did it a lot in the 90s.
Andrew's job at this point is not just, in my view, about winning the Europa League. That's essential. For him to have any chance of keeping the job, I think he has to win the Europa League. But it's not just about that. It's also about the league form from now to the end of the season and the consistency of performances and injuries on that as well, right? We can't go through the rest of the season and pick up more injuries and whatever. And people say that's not Andrew's fault. Okay, fine. Well, let's see that between now and the end of the season, consistency in injuries, consistency in performance, consistency in results. So the idea of, it doesn't matter if we finish 10th or 15th. In principle, no, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing. Like, it's a nothing happens. But we do need to see us moving up the league with good performances. Not even good performances, good results, right? Just good results. Move up the league if Ange wants to stay.
If we won every Premier League game between now and the end of the season,
it's April Fool's Day tomorrow,
but didn't
and James's birthday, producer James,
and get knocked out and don't win the Europa League, then what?
We win every league game and get knocked out of the Europa League.
Yeah.
Well, let's just take it.
That's a new question.
I can tell you the more likely scenario is that we lose to Chelsea, we scrape past Southampton, and probably get a draw at home to Frankfurt, which is as good as us out the Europa.
Do you know what? Ryan wins the Echo of Glory. Not only is he a member, he wins the Echo of Glory beer. Why do I keep saying beer? Bottle opener. We need to have.
Sorry, it's a bottle opener.
It's a bottle opener.
It can be opened.
Ryan,
any bottle.
you've won the Echo of Glory bottle opener. We need to have some pride. We can't just keep losing in the league because of you.
Correct.
Right. Absolutely right. Tottenham Hotspur have to have some pride, and I'm so embarrassed to be a Tottenham Hotspur supporter at the moment because we keep losing.
I think
so many.
I personally call me April Fools, foolhardy, blindsided. I think it starts on Thursday at Stamford Bridge.
Okay.
I don't necessarily. Doesn't mean we'll win,
and maybe it will.
Doesn't mean we'll win.
What does it mean?
We'll put in a good performance. There'll be some pride back in the. We might lose an honourable defeat, or we might.
Gary,
draw.
maybe he'll turn it all around, and we'll be sat here in November. We'll signed his new contract.
I don't think we'll go to the bridge and get humped like you think we will. Chelsea aren't even playing well enough to do.
Do you know
that.
what? I don't
That's
even
the
care
other
if we
thing.
get humped. If we lose 1-0, it's our 20th defeat of the season. I'm just fed up.
Does 4-3 count as a humping? Does a 3-4 defeat, Gary, count as a humping?
I think if you're conceding 4 goals, that's never good, is it?
Yeah, but
like,
it's not thrashing, is it?
Look, if I was to predict the score for Thursday night, I think it was more likely to be 3 or 4-1 to Chelsea.
Okay, let's do predictions. Gary, what's your prediction?
3 or 4-1 to Chelsea.
Jake?
Especially if Jackson doesn't play. No way they score 4. If he does, maybe it's different. I think it could be 2-2. Yeah, you like that, do you, Johnny? You like a bit of 2-2?
No. We will. I think we get beat 3-1. Yeah.
Now, Gary's got 3-1, so you have to have another one.
All right.
I've got 3 and 4-1.
He's got
2-1. 2-0.
You don't think we'll score?
No.
Oh, come on, we'll score.
No.
We'll definitely.
Have we ever scored at Stamford Bridge?
Yeah,
we've won there twice since the Big Bang.
I don't remember the first one. I remember the most recent one.
Oh no, we've only won there once in the Premier League. I was just thinking of that Lineker game in the 90s. Late
Yeah, when was that?
89, 90, 88.
It was before
89.
the Premier League, wasn't it?
3-0 Spurs is Jorge
Tell you what,
Pena.
If that is correct, then I will make sure that there is a bit of Echo of Glory merch on the way to you, if that is correct.
Him pulling the purse string. Your
He'll get James to pay.
Okay, very good.
I'll just tell James.
Very good.
All right, we are done. We'll be back on Friday post Chelsea.
I'm going to the game.
Debrief. You're going to
well.
Stamford Bridge for work or for
Oh,
pleasure?
you like
Yeah,
the food
for
though,
work.
so you're quite enjoying
No,
it.
You're going for
I'm
work for Talk Sport.
Yeah,
You say it's the best spread in the Premier League, don't you?
yeah.
Very
I
nice.
don't say it. It is.
Better than Tottenham.
There's more of it. More variety.
You know, their chairman spends more than our chairman. So what do you expect?
The food at Tottenham's very good, though.
He
Don't get me
knows that
wrong.
Jake's coming along to inhale the mash. So.
No, that was West Ham.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Friday we'll be back. James Robbins will be with us. I'm not sure who the other guest will be. Post Chelsea, pre Southampton. You know, Southampton could get. We could relegate Southampton if Wolves win both their matches this week, and Southampton don't win one. Southampton will be relegated. So we could relegate Southampton, but probably won't if it comes down to it.
Oh, come
I
on. We
can't
put them
remember-
to the sword at their own
We really
ground.
did. One of our live shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
And we're at home.
I feel like we have relegated teams, but the one that sticks in my
Birmingham.
mind was
We
Birmingham at home and
We
they beat
relegated.
us.
No, we beat
No, they
Birmingham.
beat us.
No, we beat Birmingham 2-1 and we relegated them. Pavlichenko scored.
I thought they beat us.
No. Coventry beat us to stay up in the 90s. We relegated Birmingham. There might be another, but no one's beaten us. And
We've
gone
played
down.
relegated teams, but we haven't. I can't remember. No, like Leeds and
I see,
and things
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. You know, but I can't remember actually. I thought I had it in my head that Birmingham beat us.
No, they didn't.
Okay.
Jorge Pena says Burnley. Did we relegate Burnley? Yeah, we did. We did last season. We relegated Burnley.
There you go.
Beat them 3-1. They scored
Thank you,
first.
Jorge.
And then we beat them. Porro scored, and I think I'm losing my mind. Van der Ven maybe. Anyway,
Let's do the poll.
what was the poll? Current aura. The poll was at the start of this episode. Back with a bang. Back to the old routine. James has now hidden the poll. There it is.
There it is.
Back to the future, or back to the basics, or back to basics. The winner of this poll is back to the old routine, which I
is?
suggest people think we're just going to keep on losing. If we were back with a bang, 28% said back with a bang, 40% says back to the old routine, 18% said back to the future, and 12% back to basics. Half the time I don't know what James is talking about.
No, does he?
We're going to wish him a happy birthday for tomorrow. Our April Fool is
How old is
celebrates a birthday tomorrow. I don't know how old he is. You ask him.
I'll ask him.
Should never ask a woman their age.
Okay. Wait.
All right, gentlemen,
We'll
ladies.
enjoy the show on Friday.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll swerve that one.
Like I said, Spurs are the gift. I listened back to our very first podcast.
Which people should go and do.
Yeah, it was actually a lot better than I thought. But one of the first things I said was Tottenham Hotspur are the gift that keeps on giving. And 2 years on,
Here we are.
and we are still here with plenty to talk about. More to talk about on Friday. We will see you then. And up the Spurs. Yeah, up the Spurs!